I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new Goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Transfer Pod with myself, Trev, Downey, and of course with Dave Davis. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, good, mate. It's kind of pre-season, or it's supposed to be the wind down, but the manager situation, the transfers, everything that's going on, it's just a bit mental, isn't it, really? Let's be honest.
It feels very, a lot of stuff's up in the air. Including Dave, very much our own club and people trying to get a feel for what the new structure is going to be like, who's going to be involved in it, who's not going to be involved in it, who's on their way out, who's definitely not on their way out. It was the subject of most of the conversations I've been having for the last while with friends who are also Reds. A lot of angst about Trent, a lot of angst about Mo, a lot of angst about, you know, even the Virgil situation. So it's quite interesting that's not going away anytime soon. But there are other Red stories for us to start with. So we'll do exactly that. First one you've got up is, I like it because it's a nice tasty new, well, not new, but tasty rumor about someone that we're linked to who is very highly rated. People will have heard the name Euro before, but you might be able to fill them in on who and what and when and the various details.
Yeah, 18-year-old central defender Lenny Yoro, very much seen as a superb talent, liked by all your major football clubs. Trev had a really good season at Lille. They're obviously in the qualifying rounds now to try and make the Champions League. The thing is, he's got a year left on his deal, Trev. So there's a lot of clubs interested. And the other names is L'Équipe, Le Parisien, and obviously, you know, I'm fluent in French by my pronunciation, are saying that Real and PSG are very interested in this kid. So it's funnily enough, it's one I was talking to David Lynch on the Media Matter show today and asking around. Liverpool like this kid. Liverpool have liked this kid for a long time. Like you said, it's important to mention it's not a brand new name. There's positives and negatives to this one, and they come in the same form, funnily enough. The positives are he's a Jorge Mendes client. We get on very well with Mendes, don't we? We pay a shed load of compensation or remuneration, whatever you want to call it, amongst the years. So that's a positive. He's put players at our club. That's a positive. The negative is he's put a lot of players at PSG and Real Madrid. And the negative is he has a very good relationship with the likes of El Khalifi, Campos at PSG, and Real Madrid. We know the relationship he has there. And the other negative is, let's be honest, Trev, those two clubs pay a lot more in wages than we do. So it kind of feels like a now or never job, really, because his price with the year left, they're talking around. And Lille is still to confirm this. There's still obviously a bit of figuring out going. I mean, let's be honest, Lille are desperate for an auction, aren't they, where people just start throwing stupid money in. But we like him. We've got definite interest. We would love to get the player. But let's be clear. I think it would be fair to say you'd probably make us third favourite at the moment. So I like him. I like the link. Liverpool like the player. Would I bet serious money on it? Not really, to be honest.
I think that's going to upset a lot of people hearing the frankness of your take there, but I think it makes perfect sense. As you've laid it out, there are people in better situations to throw bigger amounts of cash about, and therefore, you know, if we're going to be perfectly honest about things, when it gets into bidding wars, that's not our strong suit and never has been. It's definitely not going to be now in the renewal and reinvigoration of the Michael Edwards era. If it's not a specific client like that, we do know that is an area of the field that we're looking for. And we do know that we're looking specifically for left-sided centre backs. And a couple of the trustworthy and not so trustworthy types have been chatting about the same in recent weeks. What do you make of that? And is there anyone in particular that you're hearing in that regard?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it's as Ornstein said, it's definitely a defender Liverpool are interested in, and there's their focus on possibly a centre back or a left-sided player. Romano's been, and again, I would say trustworthy, untrustworthy. We'll let our viewers make their own calls, but he said a number of times on a number of pods, it's a left-sided centre back Liverpool are after. Now, interestingly, Trev, there's a lot of people who are being named on Liverpool's wish list. And it's important I say that because I think quite a lot like the idea of players like Calafiori potentially and that. And there's a lot of names out there that I would love to see Liverpool get. But we're not going to lie on this show. We don't really have those names. The only one that we're really getting at the moment from and it's not a new name. It's quite a few journalists, few people have mentioned it. I could be pronouncing it wrong, but William Pacho, I think it is, the Eintracht Frankfurt. Now, he's one that almost like, as it was described to me when I was asking around, like a Nathan Ake style hybrid, can play left back, but can also play centre back on the left side as well. So people will have their opinions, won't they, on that? I think people definitely want a defender, at least one, to come in. They might think centre back because Matip's going. They might think left back to challenge Robertson. Maybe it could be in between. And obviously, if Joe Gomez stays, you'd think, okay, well, if he doesn't cover left back, he can be one of the centre back options and that type of thing. So I think everyone would call it abject failure if a defender didn't come in this summer, be it in the centre back or someone who can play left back, both roles that way. Pacho's the only really name when you ask around that you can get hold of. So, but again, Yoro we've mentioned as well. There's no new update on that. So in true Liverpool Edwards style, I always love when these names come out at the last minute because you always think the way Liverpool operate, it's never the first names, is it, Trev? It's never the first names. Do you remember like the start of the summer when you were talking the likes of Ugarte was nailed on and things like that, and then they drop off and it's always a surprise name. So we'll have to see, but Pacho asking around the only name that's coming up at all.
Yes, I have heard that one myself, and I've also heard, like you have, very positive reviews of that particular young man. But you've put your finger out there, Dave, haven't you, in that until we know who's going, we can't even start to talk about who may come in because it's impossible to do the sums on the squad balance and that type of thing. We're going to finish with the Liverpool section in a few minutes about speaking about some of the people who we definitely know are off. So that will at least clarify some things for some people and they can start making decisions based around them. And one of those that we know is definitely in the centre half bracket. So yeah, you're right. Abject failure, I think, is a phrase that I would consider using too. But I'll tell you what, if you do and you decide to throw that around on the old Twitter machine, you will be harangued by the toppest of top Reds for being some sort of a what would you know type. Because I remember saying something similar about addressing the areas of the team that needed addressing. My phrase over the last 2-3 summers was negligent in terms of, right, the title is there for us if. And I hate to say it, man. I don't tend to do this, but I was fucking right. Okay, that's a simple fact. There were areas to be addressed and we didn't address them. And as a result, the team suffered on a couple of occasions. And you can be the toppest of top Reds and you can say about how wonderful everybody is. And I will agree with you. They're all brilliant lads. We had a brilliant manager, a great coaching staff, but the lad who's using stronger glasses than myself could see the areas that need addressing. So I'm hoping you are right that is what happens. Let's talk briefly before we talk about outgoings and finish with Liverpool about someone who's about to stay around. Because this has a knock-on effect, I think, in a discussion about another high-profile lad that nobody wants to see going. So talk to us about Mr. Taffarel.
Yeah, in good news, because let's be honest, Trev, there's just been anyone who's been linked to Jurgen Klopp being in a coaching role, backroom staff, gone one by one. And we could talk about, is it Edwards' pettiness? Is it the right time? All those types of things. But either way, the outcome is the same. They've all been leaving. Taffarel was silent, wasn't it? It was all like, is he going to go? And obviously we've had these questions around Alisson all summer. But now, as David Lynch and a few others are saying, he is set to stay, which we take as a positive because he kind of came into Liverpool, didn't he, through Alisson's influence and it's Brazilian legend, Taffarel. You'd think that's done to keep Alisson happy. And that's all the soundings that you're getting when you ask around. Yeah, it's very much done. It keeps Alisson happy. Couple of links to that as well, interestingly. I generally didn't know this until asking around. Alisson's brother and his family come from like a big family of goalkeepers, strangely enough to say. And he'd been talking to Liverpool about, setting up academy, getting linked, that type of thing. And very much there's talk that don't be surprised this season if we just hear a few things around that. And I'm making this up now, but, there's like an AB1 academy set up or things like that, or he starts having a bit more influence in the training. Don't be surprised by that at all. And that's where they're thinking, the academy situation might come in a bit for him. But the goalkeeper stuff's a bit mad because if he stays, you've probably got questions around young Queeve and is he happy to be number 2, haven't we? And the knock-on effect, like you say, of that. But it is one backroom staff staying, definitely. And we even got today, didn't we, that Liverpool have set to finally start filling the vacancies that they were putting on LinkedIn. So Ruben Peters will be coming in kind of a hybrid role of the Kornemeyer, Schlumberger. So I think it's called something like head of fitness, and I'm missing the title, but quite a Ponzi LinkedIn style name type of thing overall, but with a very definitive brief around looking at the squad, keeping them as fit as possible was the key news we were getting. So stuff is starting to happen. The biggest thing I took, though, is they've done something to keep Alisson happy. Do it. It's Alisson. It's Ali. It's the world's number 1. If it keeps him here, do it.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new Goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become? Senwa Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
And that's what they've done.
I 100% agreement. I've said on as many shows as possible, I don't want to see any of these guys going at all. You and I spoke about it last week. I don't want to see any of them going. If we can hang on to them all, I understand it's probably not feasible and that there will possibly need to be an asset cashed in. That's okay, fine. But as many of them as possible, I want to stay in. Allison is not a fella you ever want to see leaving your football club. Delighted with the Taffarel news. Very interesting with that little sideways thing that you're chatting about with potential for Ali going into a slightly different sphere and maybe branching out. That's very interesting to think about. And of course, we do have, don't we, in Jarosz as someone who's been very successful on his loan campaigns. We've obviously got Queven Keller, who's a super goalkeeper and has proved himself. So we are, at least, I suppose the thing to think about then is that leaves us healthy in that regard. And so whatever will happen, hopefully will be very positive. Now, we do know, though, that we have Joel Matip on his way out. But what people didn't know is where he might be on his way out too. I think most people would have, I don't know, maybe it's just me, might have assumed that he would go somewhere where he has previous history or somewhere that would be comfortable for him. But it seems as if he's going to be staying a little bit closer to the current residence that he has. Talk to us about Joel, and I think you said before the mics went live that there might be one or two more stories sort of in this general bracket about fellas on the way out.
It's kind of nice stories. Do you remember when you go to like high school reunions, Trev, and like you start catching up with the mates you get in charge, and then you go, what happened to those lads, you know, that were in our year? What happened to like Ginger Neil or Alan with the fat back and that type of thing? And it's nice to hear stories, isn't it? That they, you know, well, he's got his own electrician firm and all this. So it's nice to hear these types of things occasionally. So yeah, Joel Matip, I mean, we talked about 3 weeks ago that he looked set to go to the Rome clubs, and that could still happen, didn't it? Because they were free transfers, all that type of things. Great signings, but that's gone quiet. The Express and the Mail have said that Bournemouth, of all clubs, are interested in signing him on a free transfer, which I'm not saying I can't confirm either way, but it's an interesting one. You think, can his body just stand up to the Premier League in the nicest way in that pace? How many games? But then again, at a club like Bournemouth, they might be thinking, yeah, if we can get 20 games or so out of him, it's still Joel Matip at Bournemouth, isn't it? Let's be honest, he becomes their best defender like that in the flick of a heartbeat. The other one, speaking of the old boys, well, there's two really. Everyone's hearing it that Thiago Alcantara is of interest to Barcelona, isn't he? As like a playing assistant manager to Hansi Flick, who's set to come in, and we'll talk about Barca later. And then the one that's come out today, Trev, Adam Lallana. So he's just left Brighton, hasn't he? He's set to go, and he's set to reunite with Southampton as well, who just got promoted, which is a good kind of move for them, isn't it? It's almost like when you thought Milner would go to Leeds if they got promoted that time. It just feels like a good, healthy move for all parties. So the long story short, all the old lads from high school, they're doing well by the sounds of it.
It's great. I had lost touch with Ginger Neil and Alan with the fat back. I'm delighted to hear that they've got thriving businesses, and also that Joel Matip will be on display in the Premier League, and we can see more tantrums, Dave, because that's all we want really from our Joel Matip content. He is a content machine, and it's when other lads, when Liverpool lads go to other Premier League clubs, it doesn't happen that often. I think people stay very fond of them. People retain it. Well, some people hated Lallana for reasons, but people retain fondness for Lallana. People retain fondness for Big Jimmy Milner, like you said. So I'm looking forward to Joel's Bournemouth adventure, I have to say. We are going to start going around the Premier League now quickly. And probably the most interesting thing that's happening in the transfer market, Dave, if we're being honest, is manager based, because it's crazy town. We knew it was going to happen because we knew how many vacancies were coming up and how many potential vacancies. You've just mentioned one that's been filled comparatively recently in a big story, but there's a lot going on in the Premier League. Chelsea, Manchester United, Brighton, and others. So maybe walk us through this merry-go-round.
It's still crazy when you think of whatever you think of them as clubs. You can't argue that there's names: Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Chelsea. They're names, Trev. No one can argue with that in Europe. And their next coaches could be coming from relegated Burnley, just promoted Leicester, just promoted Ipswich. It seems crazy that where they're going, but that is where we are. So we'll go through these one by one. I mean, United's fascinating because everyone expected City to hammer them in the FA Cup final, so that was going to be the hammer, the anvil coming down on Ten Hag, wasn't it? And then they breached the script. So all of a sudden, instead of him getting sacked the day, which all the stories were, United were going to do a quote-unquote season review to see where they stand. And literally today, Trev, I have seen 2 stories that are like, that's it, they've made their call, he's going, and it was just a prolonged nonsense. But also today, there's even stories that they may keep him around. So no one's quite, it just seems the circus is still there at United. But as we said, the names last week are still there, aren't they? Like Tommy Tuchel's lurking in the background, Pochettino obviously left Chelsea. So it's just a bit like no one's quite sure. There's the same uncertainty. That's the only thing that's constant at Old Trafford, isn't it? The uncertainty in the whole thing. And speaking of, just whole car crashes, Sweeney Todd, God bless him. It was Kieran McKenna at one stage. He's dropped out. Now it seems the name that they may be ignoring De Zerbi possibly, but the name that's coming out a lot is Enzo Maresca, that they're actually in compensation talks because there's a clause there with Leicester City. What to get rid? I don't want to diminish managers, but to get rid of Pochettino, we seem to got to grips with it a little bit and go for a lad that's just got Leicester City promoted. It does seem a dip, and I know people are going to be screaming that he was on Pep's coaching staff and he's a Pep disciple of all this, but there's a big difference, as we know, between jumping up to that level. But Maresca seems nailed on for it. Brighton. Now, everyone expected that Kieran McKenna was actually going to choose Brighton, the sensible option. Don't go just in at the big boys, don't do that. But even in the last hour, David Ornstein said that he expects him to sign a deal with Ipswich, like a contract extension and renew and stay there. So that's craziness. Throw into the mix now that Unai Emery's just signed a 5-year contract today, literally in the last hour or so. So all of a sudden, he's gone from he's not brand new, but he looks all of a sudden one of the most stable positions in the manager environment. But the Premier League, head coaches, managers, whatever you want to call it, it is utterly mental at the moment, Trev. But let's not complain. It gives us stories. It gives us a lot to speculate on and share our opinions. But yeah, you expect by the end of this week, Chelsea, United and Brighton a lot clearer. And Christ knows what De Zerbi does in all this. There you go.
Yeah. I saw a De Zerbi and United story just before we got on here. The way it was spun was that the new United head honcho finance guy was surprised, was the word that was used, at your man's success. It's like, you have not been around football, lad. Odd. It's all odd. But listen, in an attempt at very much self-knowledge and self-awareness, we have to acknowledge that.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
There are other clubs looking at Liverpool, signing Arne Slot instead of after Jurgen Klopp and thinking it's all going tits up there, lads. So it's all change, as you say, and entertaining on the back of it. We'll just have to keep an eye. If we move away from the managers and then start thinking about some of the actual football stories we're hearing, we've got Palace looking at some defenders. And we might move out of that and into City, who actually could be seeing a couple of lads heading out the door and therefore perhaps freeing up an opportunity for them to pad their squad out, because Pep needs to pad his squad out for what we're hearing will be his final season. That's a whole other little managerial story that we're hearing. So maybe start with Palace and move on to City for me.
Yeah, Palace looks like they might be actually set to do the first actual transfer business of the transfer window. So the best is centre-back, and again, I'm probably butchering this name, Chadu Riyad for around 40 million, 1-4, depending on how well Euros translate a Tesco type of job. If you ask around, if like say we've been trying to inquire, like I won't pretend I knew anything about this lad. That would just be an outright lie. But speaking to guys who do follow La Liga, this is seen as a really good buy for them, by the way, Trev, that they herald this guy can play in a Glasner-style back three as well, a really talented and good buy. And they've done some good business recently, haven't they, Palace? Like Adam Wharton looks like absolute, a star in making type of thing. So, yeah, that is seen as a really, really good buy and driven by Glasner at the same time. So that's an interesting one. City, this is an interesting one as well. Edison, the goalkeeper, this rumour is coming up daily and it just won't seem to go away. The Saudi link, and now even today in like the Mail and the Mirror, both mention a specific club, that Al Ittihad, very much like this player for around the £25 million mark. It all waits to see, can a deal be done with City? But this story just keeps rumbling and rumbling. And, it's the old talk of smoke without fire job, isn't it, really? So it is an interesting one. And then there's a few have named. And I always think when you say Bernardo Silva, terrific player, unbelievably bad guy. He's a little rat, isn't he, really? But he's a hell of a player, let's be honest, in all that type of scenario. He's been wanting to leave City since the dawn of time, hasn't he? Every summer he's linked with a move away. It's interesting. His clause, as a lot of saying, comes into effect. So there is a £50 million departure clause. He's not the youngest anymore, though. That's the only thing. So whether clubs will be willing to pay that. But again, it almost feels like we could say the last two summers again. Bernardo Silva is apparently looking to leave City. And then, like you said, Pep maybe coming into his last year, so we'll see what happens there. But they look very much like there's going to be incomings and outgoings at the Etihad there.
Al Ittihad, aren't they one of the? They're the ones who got Fab, right? I think it's not who. And are one of the four who have got the proper 100%. Big money behind them, theoretically. Yeah, listen, I know we'll touch on it later and we'll touch on it through the summer, obviously, but it's going to be really interesting to see how much of a factor that whole phenomenon is going to be, that league, those clubs, how much money they really have, if it's smokescreen or if those stories are true. It's going to be very interesting. Looking forward to that. And, the disruptor effect is going to be very much on the cards again. And I can see us returning to the subject of City perhaps over the course of the summer as well, once this news about Guardiola is nailed down, because it's going to have a knock-on effect 100%. We'll finish then around the Premier League with Newcastle and then Forest. Newcastle, first of all, linked with a couple of very, I suppose, at least one or two desirable talents from other clubs. And of course, Newcastle are also in possession of a couple of assets that have been eyed up very sort of enviously by other clubs. So there may be some ins and outs there. And I find this fascinating again, because what are Newcastle doing? Like, what stage of the City evolution are they at, or their version of it? Like, are they, let's buy all the players now, or will we throw our previous thing at the wall? Or where is the evidence that they are doing the squad build the way that, we were being told? And then finally, Forest, of course, signed, I think, 7 million and 4 players over the course of a very short period of time. That was always going to have an impact in the immediate years afterwards as things don't work out. So there's going to be a lot of movement at Forest. Start with the tune and move on then to Nottingham Forest, if you would, sir.
Yeah, it's two clubs that are both affected by FFP, aren't they? The PSR rules, and then there's a knock-on effect. And obviously we know Newcastle now will not play in Europe because United are in the Cup. So that, has a knock-on effect potentially there. The biggest stories that came out, and they were from Luke Edwards in The Telegraph, who does get a lot of Newcastle news, he's based up that way, a Newcastle correspondent, is that Newcastle are very much watching Jared Bowen, West Ham attacker, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, the Everton attacker. Now, that's a bit weird because you know Eddie Howe's come out. There's been a lot of talk around Newcastle need to balance the books a bit. So why are we talking about players that will cost a bit of money? Now, the other suggestion or a couple of players are important to say that Callum Wilson is expected to depart and Almiron. They tried to sell Almiron, didn't they, previously? So those are the two. But again, it doesn't quite balance a little bit, Trev, because you're thinking, well, hold on, the players going won't fetch that much. And if they're bringing them two in, they're going to cost a pretty penny. So that doesn't quite balance the sort of the books as you need to do. There's a lot of rumours. There's a lot of people are saying around Newcastle, isn't there? Anthony Gordon's been linked to us, and he's been a player that's touted. Isaac, the forward, isn't there? There's a lot of clubs have been said to be interested in him, Arsenal especially. That's one. A few journos are also saying that, and this is an important one, I think, just to keep an eye on in the summer, that with the whole Paqueta and obviously what's gone on there with West Ham, he was nailed to go on to City, wasn't he? That City have very much got an interest in Bruno, the Newcastle midfielder as well. So that will be one to keep an eye on in the summer. So, yeah, they've got to balance the books a little bit, Newcastle. It would be a huge surprise if there weren't some big departures, at least one, shall we say, from there. But asking around on the two, sort of, Bowen, Calvert-Lewin, very interesting, Trev. A lot of dismissed Bowen to say, no, he's happy at West Ham. He got that new deal, didn't he, in the summer to become their top earner. Very settled there, not going to happen. However, quite a few of your Merseyside journos, when you ask around, don't discount Calvert-Lewin to Newcastle. That's a player they like. Everton need cash as well, for obvious reasons, don't we, as we are at the moment, and we know. So probably discount the Bowen one, but just keep an eye on the Calvert-Lewin one. So that's the big Newcastle update. And Forest, like you said, who'd have thought that signing 67,000 players in the summer might just have a knock-on effect for FFP when you just try and sell Renan Johnson to Brentford or Spurs. But yeah, all those loans that came to an end, all gone back, aren't they? Including Big Div. He's going back to AC Milan, isn't they? They're all heading back. And the majority of their players whose contracts expired, they've got to go. The only ones who they've triggered an extension for are Willy Boley, the big centre-half, and Ola Aina, the right-back, who've done quite well for them, to be fair. So they've got, extensions they could automatically pick up. But Forest, by their nature, had to clear a lot of those loans out, all of them, had to clear a lot of the players out. And as, you speak to people involved or around Forest, don't be surprised if there's still a departure. Callum Hudson-Odoi's been mentioned, hasn't he, by quite a few clubs, and they only picked him up for $3 million from Chelsea. So there's an easy profit to recognise there. And Morgan Gibbs-White is still a name that's being mentioned by a lot of clubs. So, yeah, Forest, Newcastle, they've got to balance the books. Expect incomings and outgoings both ways again from them this summer.
Before we move on to the last section of the show, I was going to suggest to you, and I wanted to say it live as opposed to giving you any warning about this. I was going to say, we often chat immediately afterwards or in the days after doing a show, and you'll be saying, look at that, that was on the show. Look at that was on the show. So I was wondering if we should do a little sort of victory lap section every week. Hey, we got this one right. We got this one right. But then I thought, we'll probably get a few wrong as well. So maybe not. But we'll see. It's worth acknowledging. Go ahead.
Do you know what it reminds me of? I was thinking of, and I know you love your movies and you do the shows with Dave. Do you know what it reminds me of? DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street. He goes, we should be saying to the viewers, don't judge me in our winners, judge me in our losers, because they're so... Should be saying. But as soon as you're right, as soon as we start saying, look at what we got right, there'll be look at what you got wrong or said and didn't lead to it. So we never, we always say, Trev, we never pretend to be ITKs. We just ask around. And we're quite honest. We sometimes say, as you know, listeners, we don't know. We've not got anything on it. We're not going to lie to you. So we say that at the same time. We just tell you what we hear. That is all.
And if you read between the lines, listeners, Dave is very, very circumspect and respectful when he's talking about all his various sources and anyone I might mention by name of a journalistic bent, whereas I tend to be a little bit more direct about it.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from AnfieldIndex here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At AnfieldIndex, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full, and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new Goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at LiverpoolFC.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.